Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., and Wednesdays at 9 a.m. for our special edition of Tell Me Your Story. And I say that every single time, and you're saying, well, what's so special? You're just going to have to tune in. That's all I can tell you. We stream live at those times, by the way, at richarddugan.com. We have podcasts. In other words, the full version. Usually the radio version it's a little shorter. It's not that I go through and edit the thing down to a nub, but we shorten it up a little bit for the radio broadcast because, hey, you're constrained by programs before you and programs after you. So you want to go to the SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and many other locations, podcast sites to hear the full interview. You can also see and watch the full interview on YouTube. That's right. We have a YouTube channel, Richard Dugan, Tell Me Your Story. We hope that you'll go there and watch these interviews, and also go to our guest's website, which we will be linked to. We'll give you that in just a moment. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we would greatly appreciate that. We have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And finally, we ask you to spend time during the decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, and go within, listening to that still small voice. Just sit quietly, peacefully. You could, if you're driving, pull over to the side of the road if you can, for 60 seconds. One of my guests said that. Just take 60 seconds, 1 minute, just to breathe a little, close your eyes, calm yourself, especially if you're on the road and you're dealing with others. We'll just put it that way. So we hope that you will do that. Our program today, I think you're going to enjoy. I know I am, because I'm looking for more money. I'm looking for more wealth. I'm looking for more prosperity and abundance, not just for me. I'm not looking to hoard it. I'm not looking to gather up billions. I'm still waiting for the first trillionaire. I don't know that we have one yet, but we're probably getting close. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the ability, and maybe many of you are too, in the context of thriving, to be able to not only take care of the basic needs of food and shelter and clothing and transportation, but also do a few extra things. Nothing fantastic, nothing crazy. I mean, the only trip I really want to take is to Ireland. One-way ticket, please. But also to help other people, because I have been helped. There have been thousands of people who have helped me to get where I am today, to talk with my guest, who is the author of Rags to Riches: How Beauty Icons Made It Big. And we're going to talk with Karen Pudetti. I believe I have that pronounced correctly. Thank you so much for being with us here today on the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I was so excited. So it's great to be here.
Well, I tell you, and it is a big issue for a lot of folks. We of course deal in the more spiritual and metaphysical elements thereof on this program, but hey, we go into some other areas too, like this, because this is a major, not just conversation piece, but it's also a major challenge for a lot of people. And there are those of us who, hey, we've been doing great. We've been making it. We've been taking care of what needs to be taken care of and so forth. And then there are those of us who have also struggled. Maybe we've wound up on the streets. We're back in a home. Maybe we've had to file bankruptcy. Maybe we've had to do a lot of things that we wouldn't ordinarily do. And it's like, is this all there is? I mean, come on. You know what? I don't know that I want to stay here if this is the way my life is going to go. But you have a story, again, the title of the book, Rags to Riches. And I mean, it's a story that we've heard time and time again. And it's a good story. Don't get me wrong. It is a good story. Tell us about how your story begins in the context of this. And it's a short little narrative too, by the way, folks. Rags to Riches.
Well, one of the reasons that I wanted to do this is because in my industry, the beauty industry, we are the second industry to close the most amount of businesses in the first 3 years of being open, right behind restaurants. So it's restaurants, salons, spas, and only like 60% hit the 5 year mark. Most of them are in debt and they don't know how to run the business aspect. Only 1.7% ever hit the $1 million mark. So in our industry, what happens is you have these amazing, talented people, and it could be hair, nails, eyebrows, school, beauty schools, all different aspects of it. And what happens is you go and you're doing your thing and you're working for someone. You get out of school, you start working for someone, you see all this money coming in. And you may be one of those great rock stars where you're just doing phenomenal. But then it starts thinking, well, if I'm making all this money, why am I giving, half of it away? So they go out into their own and they go into business for themselves. And again, they're great at whatever their niche is and they're doing phenomenal. But what they don't realize is now they actually are the person running the business and they don't have any skills, procedures, tools. So often, many of them are working so hard. I mean, like long, hard hours, and they are really keeping that salon, spa, whatever it is, open. I got to see this over and over and over again when I was doing consulting with my clients. And it was at that point I thought our industry works so hard and they're phenomenal at whatever it is, but they just aren't making the money to survive. I mean, most of them are in debt. And so it saddened me that so many people love the industry, but we're spinning their wheels. So I took everything I've done for my business and all my consulting clients, and I did two things. I first wrote a book, and then I took the rags to riches, how beauty icons made it big. And I wanted it to be like life lessons, a lot of teaching. So if I wrote a book and I just said stuff, I figured no one's going to listen. But these are big guru people, and they tell their struggles, their ups and their downs, what worked, what didn't work. And then there's like a business assessment for each chapter, because each chapter is something different, business related. And then it goes into some education of some steps that you can do to start turning your business around or start making more of a profit. And then I thought, okay, that's a great, but I need to give more. So I decided I was going to do a course, and everything that I do in my business to get where I am, all my struggles, ups and downs, I took the things that didn't work, obviously didn't include them. I put in the book. Anything that I've given to my consulting clients around the United States that I know work for sure is in the book. And my goal, if I could help our beauty industry become much more profitable, where people get to choose what they want to do and how to do it in their lives. They're working a little bit less, making more money, and just having the financial abundance to live an all-around better life. That would be my goal, and that is my goal.
You have a website, and I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce this correctly, because based upon what I learned in English class, if you have a vowel in particular, followed by a consonant, and then followed by, let's say, an E, it's usually the long form, but I could be wrong. Luxe Spa. Is it Lux or no? I'm not even going to try. Tell me, am I got that correct?
Yep, it's Luxe Spa, Salon, and Laser Center, and I'm in upstate New York.
So it's basically a silent E. And again, I contest the whole concept of silent letters. What's the point? But anyway, that's another story for another show. The website, again, it's Luxe Spa, LuxeSpa.com. And you can find out more about Karen and the work that she is doing, not only in the beauty industry, but also in terms of the consulting work that you do. You actually work for a company as a consultant the company is Empowering You.
Yes.
And you're a coach, and you love to see the folks walking out smiling. And we certainly hope that folks will do their due diligence and check you out as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and this whole aspect of Rags to riches is a really interesting conversation that we are having here because at some level, we all kind of feel like, well, we're in the rags place. Now, I will tell you that there are two words that I'm trying to get rid of in my vocabulary. Okay. However, the question I'm about to ask you contains one of them. Success and failure. Out, out, out. And here's the reason why. Because they're nothing more than experiences. They're life lessons, they're and so forth. But negating that, how important is failure in this process?
It's huge. It will make or break you. Your failures are generally your largest learning times in life where you're like, crap, that didn't work. And you get all in your head and you're like, okay, you can feel bad about, but at some point you got to regroup and say, what am I going to do differently to get different results to get to where I need to be? And honestly, if some of my biggest failures were when I had the biggest gains and strengths and I built into like a better leader, a better business person. So failures to me are necessary. You learn a ton about you and where you're going and your direction when that happens.
All right. Now, the reverse part of that question is, how important are successes by comparison to failures?
I truly believe that you grow more with more failures than you do with successes. Successes are always great, and you always want to stop and celebrate them before you say, okay, I've accomplished this goal and I'm here to celebrate, but I want to move on. When you have a company that has a real breakdown, you have to really step back and look at the overall picture with your struggles. For instance, about 15 years ago, I had a walkout. I had 10 people within 3 days leave my company. And that was, at the time, I think like a fourth of the number of people. And I was, oh my God, I panic. What am I going to do? How am I going to pay my bills? You just like, and I liked these people. I adored these people. I was crushed. And I really learned that, I could blame all them and what's that going to get you? But I really needed to sit back and think, okay, what did I do? How did I cause this? How can I ensure that this never happens again? And what steps am I going to take? And it really came down to my type of leadership. I was a type A personality, and my staff particularly was total polar opposites for me. And I did a lot of research. I went and took a leadership class. So I was ready and determined to come back and make sure that never happened again. And in doing that, the first exercise I came back with, I did it with my whole staff. And you did a questionnaire and you figured out what your communication styles were. And mine were polar opposite. I was here and they were down here in this quadrant. And so we really had to work for them to understand how I communicate. And I had to really learn how they wanted to be communicated with. And so we came up with some guidelines. And from that day forward, it was like I had peeled back an onion and I was like, we're all on the same page. And it was probably one of the best things that I ever had to go through to get there.
I think, a type A person too, but I didn't refer to my style back in the mid 80s, 1980s. Yes, 63 this month, where I was a manager of staff. And I found out very early on that the style I was using wasn't working. And I referred to it as my Hitlerian phase. Okay. Didn't work at all.
I know that phase.
Yes. I kind of thought you might. And basically I said, okay, that's not going to work. I've got to find another tack. I mean, this person came to me and said, I'm not going to do it because you told me to. So I had to come up with a different angle. I said, well, okay. The bathroom needs to be cleaned, which was one of all of our tasks. It was part of the job description. The bathroom needs to be clean because we have other programmers and yourself and your fellow coworkers who use that facility, and each one of us has to clean up after ourselves and make sure that it's clean and so on and so forth. Okay, I'll do it then, but not because you told me to. And boy, did I back down from that whole thing very quickly. And now when I train people, I say, I'm going to show you how I do it. And then when I've shown you how I do it, you can do it. I don't care if you do it standing on your head, whatever the task is, as long as you get the result that we want. Again, as long as you get the result that we're looking for, I don't care how you get it done. Okay. And that is the way that I've been doing it. Plus, and I don't know about you, I try to teach every person that I train everything I know. Because if I hold on to it, guess what? I don't get to move up.
Yep.
I don't get to change positions, change jobs, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that a lot of people, they lose sight of that. The people are very territorial. Even in the smallest menial job. I can't stand television shows where you've got that dynamic. I know there have been a number of programs where Dynasty was one of them, and everybody's or Dallas, or there was another one. It was in the music industry, and it's the same kind of thing. It's like, well, wait a minute, wait, back up. What is your goal? My goal when I got into this business back in the late 70s, early 80s, was to make a difference, to make it better, because the bar was really, really low. Now, I haven't had as much success as I would like in the 44 years I've been doing this, but in my corner, yeah. And so I'm curious about that aspect of talking about this Rags to Riches, which is the title of your book. Is that like the number one goal is you need to know why you're doing what you're doing?
Oh yeah. It's very funny when I get consulting clients that they clearly know they need help because their financials are usually in the red or, going down even worse. And what happens is a lot of times people aren't really open. They want to tell you everything they know. But they don't really want your help. They just want to know that they are an expert too. So sometimes when I deal with consulting clients at first, it's a little difficult because they're vulnerable and they don't want to be vulnerable. So you have to kind of take a different approach, basically, and talk about what is it you really want to accomplish. I know you've been in this business forever. I know you've had great successes, but what if you could change 3 things that you could change? So it is difficult sometimes for people to kind of be vulnerable, put their ego aside, and kind of like open up. So that's one thing I hope with like my book, Rags to Riches. It kind of shows these huge people in our industry, but they had the same struggles. But each person in this book was very methodical. They wrote out their goals. They wrote out their first, 1, 2, 5, and 10 year plans, and they made steps how to do it. And they kind of show you what they went through to get where they were. It was none of it by accident. It was all by, strictly like a business plan and putting something like that together.
Well, let me ask you, what if my goal is I just want to make tons of money? I want to be a millionaire in 1 year. It brings me to the joke of Steve Martin back in the 70s, where he says, I've written a book about how to be a millionaire. Step 1, get $1 million. Step two. Okay. But and in the restaurant industry, because you mentioned that as number one, and of course salons and beauty care and so forth, number two. The question has been asked by some people who are in the business, to people who want to get into the business. You need to answer this question. Okay, what's the question? Why do you want to open a restaurant? Well, because I want to serve, and I want to meet people, and I want to do this and that, and I want to cook, and I want to share some of my and on and those kinds of things. More, we'll call them more esoteric. And the person asking the question, and this has actually happened, said, "No, that's the wrong reason. You have to go into this because you want to make money." And I'm thinking, really? Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but that seems to me a counter, because I have a feeling your goal was not to make tons of money. It was to help you, the industry you're in, the beauty industry, to thrive. And so is that not the right goal to have? I mean, it's okay if you do, but you're not really going to be successful if that's your goal.
Right. If that's really your goal, that's more like a hobby, and treat it as a hobby. If you are going to own a business, your goal really is your bottom line is you want to make money. And why wouldn't you? You're putting in all your hours, your hard work, you're putting in all your money to be successful. And if you just want to go cook for somewhere and do something, then go have someone pay you to do that, as opposed to having your own business where you've got to make sure you're making enough income to cover your expenses, and then you have a profit that you can live on after. So, if you truly get into business because you love what you do, first and foremost, because a lot of people go into a business and they're like, I really hate it. Well, this isn't for you. You're never going to be successful. You're never going to be happy. And the bottom line is you'll probably never make really good money. Mm-hmm. So pick a business that you love and then you want to do it, and then do that, but also know that your goal is to make money.
It is said, and it's misquoted. I'm going to speak the misquote, and then I'll give you the correct quote. It is said that money is the root of all evil. That's the incorrect quote. The love of money is the root of all evil. And there was a comment, we were talking about this on another program about free enterprise and capitalism, and how, I bring up often, the person that came up with these two concepts obviously didn't realize that greed was going to be part of the equation. And my guest at that time said, well, actually, it's not greed. I said, really? Not greed? No, it's envy. Both of them are, of course, one of the 7 deadly sins, as they say. But it's like, there was a beautiful story. I'd love for you to expound on this. There was a beautiful story that was told to me about a gentleman who, he and his buddy would go out for breakfast, and they'd have a great conversation. And let's call him Bob. He gets the bill, and he reaches in his pocket and he pulls out exactly the right amount to pay the bill. And the two of them go off, and they get together again a week or two later for lunch. Same thing, conversation, fantastic, just having a great time, sharing and so forth. Bill comes, reaches in his pocket, boom, exactly the same amount. Go out to dinner, same thing, only this time, Frank, his buddy, says, first of all, I want to thank you for, paying for these meals we've been having. I appreciate it. I really do. I'm very grateful. Not that I couldn't. It's just I thank you. But how is it that every time the bill comes, you know exactly how much the bill's going to be, and you reach into your pocket and boom, it's done? He says, well, let me tell you. Sub story. I was cleaning out this storage unit once, and I came across this lamp, and it was all dusty and dirty, and I wondered what it really looked like underneath, and I started wiping it off and cleaning it, and suddenly a genie comes popping out the top. And the genie says, you have one wish, and you can't wish for more wishes. And he says, all right, can I get back to you? He says, sure, I'll be here. So a few days later, he comes back and he says, I know what I want to wish for. I want to wish that I always have the amount of money that I need to take care of the things that I need to take care of. And that's how he always has the right amount of money. Now, what's wrong with that scenario? Do I really need multiple zeros, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 zeros behind the decimal, in front of the decimal point, in order to have what's really important in life? So I'm curious, from your perspective, you have to have capital in the bank, as it were, in order to obviously pay your employees, to purchase the products and so forth, to pay the release or the rent on the buildings that you, or buy the buildings that you own, and so on and so on and so on. It's necessary. I get that. Have you gotten to that place in your life where you now don't have to really concern yourself with, let's keep it personal, your own personal well-being? Let's say you and your significant other want to go out to dinner, and you don't even have to think about where you're going to go or how much it's going to cost, because I got plenty. I'm doing fine.
Here's two things. I grew up we're in a middle-class family, but when my parents divorced, I saw this financial struggles. So because I was young, like in a teenage years, because of that, I knew then I will always work hard, make my own money, be able to support myself. And that was a must in my life for me, because I saw my parents got married young. My mother never went to college. My dad did, she was the typical stay-at-home mom. So I never wanted to be in that situation. I always, whatever happened in my life, I knew I wanted to financially be able to take care of myself. So there's that. And now I have 2 daughters that I raised to be like strong, individual, have a passion for something, do it. So what my goal really is not more about me, it's more for my kids and my grandchildren. Would I love to be able to have money set aside to help each grandchild maybe go to college, or a little portion of it? That's what I'll do. As far as, I'm a minimalist. If you go in my house, I don't have a lot of crazy stuff. I'm not a stuff kind of person. But I would like to leave a legacy for my daughters. But it's not all about like the money. Like my younger one has ADHD, and I started a clothing line to start a foundation for kids who want to go to school, but can't get typical funding. So but I am very fortunate enough to be able to go to dinner and do what I want. But again, I always look, is that money wisely spent? So I kind of have that. I will always need to have my own, just because of my young upbringing.
Right.
And it served me well as I grew up, because I never had to ask somebody for money. I never had to ask them, can I go try taking this class? Or I want to take this class and it's $10,000. So for me, it was a win-win. Do I strive just to make money? No, because that's not my happiness.
Yeah. When I look back on my career, as short thus far as it has been, 44 years, I suppose. It's a relative, I suppose. But it's better than half my existence on this planet. I have to tell you that the greatest times I can ever remember, which are many, thankfully, are the relationships that I developed over the decades with not only the people that I worked with at the different stations that I worked for, but also the people that I did projects for on the side, and even my own family, my mother, father, and sisters and brother, and then all of the other people that I would meet along the way in the different fields that they were in, whether it was entertainment or or technical IT, that kind of thing. And I have found that treating people, not just the way I'd like to be treated, but treating them with respect and recognizing that, and I learned this very early on, even before I got into broadcasting, that there's always going to be someone who is better than me, and there's always going to be someone who is not as good as me. And I do not want to compare myself with them. I want to compare myself with me yesterday. And this goes back to those two words that I said I'm trying to remove from my vocabulary. One of my philosophies, and I would love for you to dive into this because I think this is very important, because we sort of already talked about this a little bit, but I want to go into this further. The success. My philosophy on success when I'm working with people, my goal is not to be successful. My goal is to make you successful. And in turn, then I'm successful. How has that philosophy been a part, maybe in different words, in your working career, if you will? And how so? How has that made a difference? Is that something that you've had to learn, or did you kind of have that from an early phase in your career?
I learned that probably in my 20s, and I didn't probably understand it at first. But as I developed as an individual, it was something that when I started, starting my own business, and I was hiring people. And yes, everyone's like, well, yeah, I want to make money. I want to be able to pay the bills, pay you people and stuff like that. But I really turned it around and started asking my staff, okay, we have a planning meeting. What are your goals for this year or long term? Like some of them are young. I want to be able to buy my first house. I want to buy a new house. My car's falling apart. I want to be able to buy a car. And so they would write their goals down. And so then I say, okay, how much money do you want to bring home next year? What is your goal? And they write that down. And is that goal going to help you get your short-term, things that you need, or your long-term? And they'll figure that out and they'll come back. This is what I want to make next year. So then we sit down together as a group and then individually, and we are able to kind of back into what they need to make quarterly, monthly, weekly, and right down to daily. So they'll hit their goals. And I run my business like that for my people, because in our industry, it's hard to make a good living a lot of times in it. I mean, it's very competitive. They're people who just show up but aren't really putting in the effort or work. My people, these are their main careers. They want to be successful and they want to live their lifestyle. So we do that. And that makes a huge difference, because when they're not hitting their goals, we'll sit down like, what's not working? What can we do differently? So my job is to make sure I'm giving them the tools to live a lifestyle they want to do. The other thing is, a lot of people who go into the beauty industry, they don't take an accounting class. They don't know their basic accounting and a P&L and a balance sheet. I give a class, and I've had people ask, can their kids come? Can so on. It's like a 20-page packet where they write down all their expenses they pay, when they're due, what other stuff is, what other liabilities they have, what is their income, and so they can start figuring out what their own bottom line is and how to make changes. Do they have to cut their expenses? Do they have to make more money? So financially, I mean, that's what my background is, and that's something I can give to people and help them with, so they can understand their lifestyle and expenses and stuff like that. So yeah, that I love doing, and that's what consulting was really all about for me.
Karen Pudetti is my guest here on the Tell Me Your Story. We're talking about her latest work, which is Rags to Riches. And the subtitle, of course, is How Beauty Icons Made It Big. I want to come back and talk about the cover of your book in just a moment as we continue here. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and I thank you so much for being with us, folks. This is for me. This is fascinating. I don't know about you, but I'm learning a lot here because, fortunately, I guess I'm lucky in this respect that I have been able to sort of adopt many of the things that you're already talking about. I think too about, and I've used this example before of Edison. The man did not believe in failure, let alone success. He just believed in inventing something that worked. And to that end, he basically had 990 ways in which the light bulb didn't work. They weren't 990 failures. They were 990 ways it did not work. And look, I mean, if he had given up at 562, then Karen and I would be doing this program in the dark. And so forth. And of course, now we have the new innovations of LED lights. You know, who knew? I mean, maybe Edison did. I don't know. But it's fascinating to me to dive into some of these things because a lot of folks want to go their own way. In 2008 and 9, during that big, I don't even know what to call it. Anyway, it was a big economic downturn. How about that? Hundreds of thousands of people lost their jobs back then. And you know what the first thought in my mind was? I wonder how many of those people hated their jobs. There's a thing called karma, you know, and also my father taught me very early on. My late father taught me very early on. He says, find a job you love doing because you're going to be doing for a long time. Don't get stuck like me. Now, my father didn't stay stuck. He went to junior college, got his computer programming degree, and so forth. But I think that's one of the things that I'd love for you to touch upon in this context. And I have a feeling there you are. Okay. I'd love for you to talk about in this context of all of this, and then we'll get to the cover of your book. Share with us your thoughts.
Well, during that time, it was a rough time for many, many, many people. And I do remember having friends, and a lot of my clients were really struggling. And I just remember talking to a ton of people about it. And that was a theme, that people were losing their jobs. And most of them, a year or two later, said it was the best thing that ever happened because they were just going through the motions of living. They were just doing the same thing they did, and they really had to stop and reevaluate their life. So I definitely saw that. It's kind of like when I went back to school, because my I was an accountant and a CPA stuff. I went back to school and got all my beauty, licenses and stuff like that. So I knew what was going on. When I went back, I was in a class at the time of all older people. There was a class of like 10 of us, and we were all like second job careers. And there were people from a VP of a bank. There was somebody from a big corporation VP. It was just like, and they said, yeah, it was great money, and I hated it. I was miserable. And so it was really interesting to see. So I get asked that a lot, like, how do you go from, way over here and I had a great job, making great money, and I didn't care. I just hated it, to going over here. And I said, I just had to follow a passion. And I truly knew in a young age, I probably needed to work for myself. I was better not being told what to do. So to anybody, pick a career you love. And even in our industry, you see a lot of people, they'll go into the beauty industry because they don't think about college. And then all of a sudden they graduate and they're like, what should we do? What should they do? And a lot of people are like, well, go to beauty school. And they go to beauty school and they come out, and it's not cheap. And they come out and they're like, okay, I don't want to do hair. I don't care about anyone's feet, and I don't care about anyone's face. Again, not the right pick. So, it is first and foremost, if you don't love what you're doing, you're not, to me, in my heart of hearts, I don't really think you're ever going to be successful at it. I think that's huge.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. One of the things that I wanted to bring up also was shortly after that downturn, The entrepreneurial explosion. It's basically what you were just talking about, and people getting into doing things that they genuinely wanted to do. At least they now had the opportunity to search. Well, we've had that sort of happen here in the late 20-teens into the 2020s, where people, we've had a fluctuation of our unemployment rate, which I have to tell you, I'm not even sure I understand how they do the calculations, because there are a lot of folks who they're not even counted because they're not doing the things that would get them into that list of statistics. They say, forget it. I'm going to go over here. And I think it's when you apply for unemployment. By the way, speaking of which, I don't know about you, but my experience of unemployment, I was laid off of 4 jobs in 1 year. The first 2 jobs, I went in and I applied for unemployment. Within the first or early second week, and here in Arizona, or in Arizona where I was living, you don't get anything for the first 2 weeks. I had another job, one of the 4, shortly after losing the first one, but filing for unemployment. So I got nothing. The second job, same thing happened. So when I lost the second job and I was headed for the third job, not knowing what it was yet, I thought, what is the point of filing unemployment? Obviously, I'm going to find another job within the next 2 weeks, so I'm not even going to waste my time. But that entrepreneurial boom, I had a business, and you mentioned this early on. I should have consulted with you back then. I had a business. It's called Fast Forward Audio, and now it's called Audio and Video Communications. Long title. I actually did get the website, but anyway. And I had it for 1 year, and I went to file my taxes as a sole proprietor, and I owed the federal government $3,000+. I shut the business down. I said, I am never doing that again until I have the infrastructure to make sure, like a CPA, that all of this stuff is taken care of so I don't have to pay down the road. It was a mess. I think it took me a couple of years to get them paid off, and I did. But there's that aspect of it too. You kind of made the comment about someone coming out of cosmetology or beauty school in a general sense. I don't want to do feet. I don't want to do faces. I don't want to do hands. Hair, now that'd be kind of fun. But that's what I want to do. What do you mean I have to write a business? I don't know what the heck a business, but accounting. I take in what I take in and then I pay the bills with it. Well, it's not that simple, apparently. If I've got this idea, Karen, and I want to go, let's just say, euphemistically, from rags to riches, where do I start? Because granted, we've already acknowledged how important failure is. I'd like to minimize it as much as possible. But tell us, where do we go from there?
Well, first, there's several things you should do. If you're phenomenal at doing what you do, and that's your niche and that's your thing, that's what you should be doing. That's what you should be spending your time. I tell my clients, whatever makes you the most money and the happiest, you do that. Find other people to do the stuff that you're not good at. For instance, social media and me, I still don't get it. I have to do it, but I have to pay people. And then they try to tell me stuff and I just shake my head. Is it working? Yes. Okay. That's all I need to know. So, I mean, I could spend a lifetime still trying to figure out that. I'll never be good at it. I'll never understand it. So I hire somebody. It's like if you don't have the business background, you can hire a coach. I mean, there's coaches at all different levels. You definitely need a bookkeeper to get you started. And I don't care what kind of business it is. If you don't know accounting, don't pretend you're the bookkeeper, because you're not. And you need a CPA at the end of the year, or so you can meet with them quarterly to have ideas. So definitely figure out what you're the best at, what else you need to be successful. And you will save so much time, so much money. Because what happens is when you don't know, it's trial and error, trial and error. So now you're wasting all your time. Now, if it fails, you're probably wasting some money. So you're just spinning your wheels. I tell anybody who's going to start a business, the best thing to do is get all the people you need to help you run your business, and yeah, pay for their experts, but their expertise. They will pay for themselves in the business, meaning that they'll save you the time, the money, and then you can say, okay, this is working. Perfect. This isn't working with the social media person because you're not driving any business. So we need to change this. It's the number one thing to take people from any level to the next level is know that difference, what you're good at and what you need help with. And even like my background was accounting and finance. I went and took a class with the Better Business Bureau in my area just so I can learn maybe different I knew a lot of CPAs, but marketing people and different things. There's a lot of courses you can do to help you. That is the most important piece of really becoming successful.
Great quote here. Now there are a couple here that I'm gonna utter. Now I know a variation on this particular one that adds a little more oomph to it, but I won't do it here. Just do it. Just do it. But this other one is, I think, goes to your point. Great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people. The one thing that I have found very interesting in the hiring process, which I haven't done in a long time, and in a way, fortunately, I'm glad I haven't, but it's still, it's kind of enjoyable because I like passing on what I know. It's not just, I want everybody else to know what I do so that I can step away from this and they'll do this. No, I want to teach people how to do what I do. I was actually listening to the radio station I work for one day, and I'm listening to this commercial and I'm going, I don't remember producing that. That sounds really, who did that? Well, there was only one other person here. And when I talked to him about it, he said, oh yeah, I did that. I said, oh my God, that's amazing. I thought I did that, but I know I didn't. I wasn't trying to take credit or anything. I thought, and he says, well, it's what you taught me. Oh, okay. And that's really where I'm coming from in all of this is I want to teach people everything that I know. I want, if it were to work this way, I would drain my brain and give it to somebody else so that that's my legacy, if you will. That's my legacy. And I'm hoping the people I have trained over the years have held on to some of the things. I still remember coming to Santa Barbara and thinking, oh my gosh, right close to LA, the media center of the country and so on and so forth, and thinking, oh, they're going to be working with all the broadcast standards. 30-second commercials are 30 seconds, 60-second commercials are 60 seconds, et cetera, et cetera. You have to watch your volume, you make sure you're not overmodulating, et cetera, et cetera. I come here, nobody not only doesn't know the standards, they don't care. Again, I got into this as a business to make a difference. So I've trained people, and someone was looking at a list of my files of 30-second commercials that were all stacked up, and they could see how large the file size was. And they were all identical. And they said, how's it possible? I said, because I have a template that doesn't allow me to go over 30.00.00. Because they're supposed to be 30. I mean, how hard is that to figure out? And I guess the greatest example of clarity on that, when I was working for the local TV station, and they said, you've got to make them 30s. If you make them less than 30, let's say you make them 28, the customer is getting ripped off by 2 seconds, and you total all of the commercials they're running, how much time are they not getting? And if you make it 32 seconds, they're paying less for more that we're giving them. And you total up the total seconds, how much more commercial time are they getting? Now it seems like a small thing, but that's to me, make it the way it's supposed to be. Now in your industry, I would love for you to talk about this. There you have standards. By the same token, your industry is also creative.
That's a great word. Yes, we are very creative. You would be shocked at how creative some people can be. Yeah. Yeah. It's
I mean, there are rules in every jurisdiction. There are different laws and rules. There are some areas where I can't get my head shaved. Okay. And there are other areas I haven't had it done yet, I guess I'm a little concerned about that old straight razor when they go across there. Anyway, but you've got certain parameters that you have to operate by, but by the same token, you do have that certain level of creativity.
We do. And I'll be honest. Honestly, the smaller you are, I think the more creative you can be. Because if anybody's going to come into like our state, for instance, I'm a big place and I know that. So, like, if they're going to come in and audit you as far as making sure you're following your rules and doing the walkthrough, they call them the inspectors when they come in. The bigger you are, the bigger the chance you're going to have an inspector come in because he wants to hit a few big places and call it a day rather than going to a few mom and pop places, So, inevitably, I'm consulted a lot of different places and a lot of different states do different things. So first of all, always know what your state is doing because what your state doing and the next state is doing is crazy. I actually had two clients, they were side by side and they were right down one of the in different states and their laws were completely different. It was it was really weird, but at first I was like, oh my God. So know exactly what you can and can't do. The larger you are, stick to the standards. They put most of the standards are in place to protect the employees and the clients coming in. So definitely do that. There are some places that are known for buying products in China, which you're not supposed to do. And they have, dental bonding in them. That's not even great for someone's nails. It's a heck of a lot cheaper, but it's not good for people's nails. So there are shortcuts. I wouldn't do it. Honestly, I mean, I always think if I'm paying for a service, I want high-end products. I want to know that what I'm getting is what I'm getting. And I've seen all sorts of things in my experience. I've seen where you have, the $60 shampoo, and yet in it is the thing from the grocery store and stuff like that. I think what we used to call them kitchen cutters, people who generally have like come to my house, I'll color your hair and do your cut and color and it will charge you like $20. They're using a ton more bleach because it's a fast process. They're not using the products, so they're really destroying the integrity of your hair.
I'm sure you've heard of the studies and experiments with wine. The low end $2 Chuck versus the high end Fino du Pape or whatever it is. Anyway, and they will do a blind taste test. And 9 times out of 10, people will actually like the less expensive stuff. That is not a rule, or that is not an experiment that would wash, no pun intended, in the beauty industry, would it? Because of what you've basically just described.
No. And today our clients, they're smart. They can they can Google anything, get anything anywhere. I mean, so you're smart. So when they come to you, your job is whatever service they're having, obviously, but is more to educate them. Educate them on your hair is dry and brittle, that you're not having enough vitamins, whatever it is that you do, you want to educate people and build that bond with them.
We're talking with Karen Pudetti, and Rags to Riches is the title of her book, her website, of course. I'm going to pop over here and I'm going to spell all of that for you so that you go to the right place. And the website is luxespa.com, luxespa.com. And this is Tell Me Your Story. Some of you are probably sitting there right now listening to Tell Me Your Story with yours truly, Richard Dugan, and our special guest, who is Karen Pudetti, author of Rags to Riches. Richard, you asked her a little while ago about the cover of her book. Well, what's the big deal about the cover of her book? Well, she's on the cover, but she's not. but she's not alone. And by the way, your hair seems to be a little longer now than in the book, but that's fine.
Yeah,
because hair grows. But you have a bunch of images of a whole bunch of other people There are one, two, at least three males, four. I just found a fourth one. Maybe there's a fifth one. And then one, two, three, four, five, six, seven females. Are these your clients?
Those are all the authors or the people I interviewed in my book. So like Damone Roberts, he's a guru of eyebrows, to Oprah, Brianna, Beyonce, everybody who's huge. Amy Carter is a profit coach and helps take businesses, all businesses to another level. There's Gino Stempora, who was in with all the huge beauty icons. He started the schools. I mean, everybody is huge. There's Barbara, who was a model, and then she turned into a groomer, and she's Tom Hanks' groomer. Anka used to be flown out to the Jonas Brothers every 10 days to cut her hair, cut all their hair. I mean, so these are the people who I interviewed, and these are all people who, started just like most of us in our beauty industry, and just they strategically and procedures put in place got to where they are today. So yes, they're big, huge people.
And now the other obvious question that I need to ask is, you're telling me you can specialize in eyebrows?
Oh, yes. Damone, he has two places, one in New York, one in California. I mean, he has a list of stars that is unbelievable. He actually even went to Madonna's house to do hers there as well. Yes, and he has assistants and stuff like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and you little name dropper, you.
I know, really.
I tell you,
these were some of the people, and I'm honestly, I was so honored and thrilled that they agreed to it. I love meeting each and every one of them. I love their humble beginnings, their stories, when things didn't go well. I mean, they were phenomenal.
Oh, you brought up something very important too, and that is self-confidence without going over to the narcissist side. You have to have run into a few of these people who are just, I am blessed by God to be the greatest.
I actually interviewed somebody for the book, and he's a big deal too. A big deal, but the least humble person I ever met. And he was kind of just mean, and he wanted to make it apparent that I was a nobody, and I was fine like that. I mean, I'm just doing my thing, loving my own life. And I was just like, okay, I can't even deal with him. I don't like him. I don't like anything. He's not in the book. So yeah, I did. And it was just him, but the rest of them, amazing people.
Yeah. I want to dive into the customer a little bit. Now, I'm a guy. I don't wear cologne. I don't wear any kind of, because I know some guys that do makeup. I just not a thing. Yes, I've got the beard, and I do it myself right now, just out of expense sake. I love going to the barber. Don't get me wrong. I love that experience. And I actually decided to do it because my wife was every 2 or 3 weeks, she was going to the nail salon to get a mani or a mani-pedi. And I thought, okay, obviously she doesn't feel like she can do that herself, which I understand. I know my sisters. I had 4 sisters, and they all could do their own nails and so forth. But anyway, I thought, well, shoot, if she can go there and do that, why can't I go to the barber? I mean, yes, I got a razor, and I've got the whole shebang and a kit over here, and I do it, and I was doing it for a long time. But I got to tell you, it's not the shave and a haircut 2 bits. It's even commiserating with the barber.
You know what? You hit the nail on the head. It is the experience. Mm-hmm. And I tell every one of the people I come in contact, they're coming to you. They're paying for your time. They're paying for your expertise. You give them the most wowing experience and build a relationship with them, and they'll be back.
Okay, but there's a catch. And this would undermine your industry completely. If if women in this country specifically, but I know it's all over the globe, who use beauty products stopped buying into the multimedia's telling them you aren't beautiful unless you do this, you wear this, you have this, and so on and so on and so on. When if my sisters, as a kid growing up, watching them grow up, if they were wearing makeup, I never knew it. If my wife isn't wearing makeup, if she is wearing it, forgive me, I don't know that I'd know it because she wears it so either sparingly or so light. But it's like, what is wrong with the beauty that you have? And I guess maybe this goes to the issue of self-esteem, partly.
I would say two things. I would say because social media has blown out of proportion, you have these now influencers who will, they're paid basically to say this product's phenomenal. Look at my new eyeshadow. Look at my new mascara. I mean, they're paid to do that, and they have millions of followers. So a lot of the young people are very quick to say, "Oh, did you see so and so? They have the new mascara," or this person's eyeshadow came out. So I think that's huge. And I think everyone wants to be on that bandwagon a little bit. Like, if you ask a girl in their 20s, who has the best eyeshadow, who has the best this, who has the best that, they all can say the same thing. It's phenomenal. I do think they grow out of that a little bit and find their things. But I mean, the beauty industry, yeah, they spend
billions.
Millions, yeah, and millions of dollars, and you have young people that will flock to it.
Yeah. And again, I'm not speaking positively or negatively. It's an observation that it's like, do you really do you need that? I mean, I get a little frustrated sometimes when we go to one of these beauty shops where you can walk in. We have one here in Santa Barbara. It's called Skin Deep. Unfortunately, I don't get any advertising revenue from that, but be that as it may, you walk in there and there are a few things. There's this small, narrow bookcase for men's products. And the rest is primarily for women. And you can walk out of there spending hundreds of dollars for what? What have you just bought? Now, there's a difference between that and some of the artistic, shall we say, expressions that people are into, whether it's piercings, tattoos, and so on and so forth, or even the hairstyles. I mean, I've seen, I saw this one woman who the side of her head was shaved and she had long hair that was parted sort of down the middle and flipped over to the other side. I thought, well, okay, that's pretty cool. And then the coloring of hair. I saw this one gal, I compliment her every time I see her. I said, I really like that. It's cool colors, rainbow colored hair. It's either streaks from the root down to the end of the hair, or it's streaks going around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Different things. Or my wife, she's got, she likes to use hair colors, and so forth. But it's like I said, this kind of goes back to also cosmetic surgery. I used to say, oh my God, why are you people doing this? Da, da, da. And it kind of goes down to, if you don't feel comfortable the way you look right now, and it doesn't matter whether people were criticizing you as a kid growing up and you're dealing with the trauma, yeah, you could go to therapy. But if you feel you need to have a nose adjustment or ears or forehead or, breast reduction or enlargement or whatever the case might be, that is going to help your self-esteem, that is another aspect of the beauty industry, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it is a gigantic part. I think women will continue to do, first of all, women also compete with other women. So it's not, so if you see a young woman and she's got this, the next young woman's like, oh, did you see that? I can do that. I can look that good. And they do stuff like that. So yeah, the cosmetic surgeries are huge. Your number one is breast enlargement. And it's been like that for over 5 years, and it will continue to grow. I do think women sometimes lose their mind a little bit. I'm all about, looking nice, feeling good, and all that. I'm all about it. But we have some clients of mine who come here, and you look at them and you take a double take and they don't even look normal. So they do take it too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big part. Those are the trends, and they're going to be around for a long, long
Yeah.
time.
And again, I'm not opposed to the trends, or even if they hang on for a long time. I mean, I'm wearing this hat that I've been wearing for more than 17 years. When I was in Phoenix, I was wearing this style of hat, and I just like it. I believe it or not, started growing the beard because I injured my right arm and I couldn't bend it to shave, so I had to let it grow. And then when it grew in, I'm going, I kind of like this, but I'm going to shape it a little bit. And then, of course, I have always shaved. I shaved my head in 2021 when my wife was going through her chemotherapy treatments. She was going to shave her head too, but found out that the chemo she was going to getting wasn't going to cause her to lose all her hair, just thin it. And so she said, "No, I'm not going to do that." And I'm going, "Well, I'm going to do it. I'm primed and pumped and ready to go." The vest I wear because it's my father's, my late father, who just passed away a couple of months ago. And this is me. This is my style. I'm not mimicking anybody. I'm not copying anybody. I like the way it looks. And what's really funny too is I'll get compliments on the vest or I'll get compliments on the hat, right?
I noticed the hat as soon as I saw you wearing it, and I was like, and I was doing some research, and I was like, I like that hat. Looks good on you.
And then I thought, well, wait a minute, you're complimenting my hat, but what about me? It's kind of like when you walk up to someone, you love animals, you love dogs, you walk up, "Oh, it's so cute. What's his name?" And it's like, I now try to make the effort. "Hi, I'm so-and-so. What's your name? And what's your dog's name?" In other words, talk to the owner first, kind of thing. That's kind of how I was thinking about, they like the hat, they like the vest. Do they like who's wearing the hat and vest? Oh, it's really something. Karen Pudetti is my guest, and Karen Pudetti, and Rags to Riches is the title of the book, and luxespa.com is the website. And this is Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and I want to thank you folks for staying with us here on the program as we talk with Karen Pudetti and the work that she is doing. I'm going to put it this way, Karen, because I think it's really true that, yes, you've acknowledged there are some women and men who go overboard considerably, and we understand that for whatever their reasons. But by the same token, there are also those who are just doing this because it just makes them feel better about themselves. Do you find some women do it, in particular, since you deal primarily with women, who are doing it for someone else, and that somehow that seems like that's the wrong reason to do this? You need to be doing it for you, not for somebody else.
Yeah, I have to tell you, my clients that come to Luxe, they really are more about themselves. You'll get, let's put it this way, a very well-kept woman, who is all about doing this for the looks, and because she's a high profile husband, and they kind of expect it. You'll get a few of those, but generally the women really come to take care of themselves. They want to look good, they want to feel good, they want to know they're doing the right things for them. So yeah, I think that's a lot of it, but you're going to get those other women too as well.
Yeah. Well, this has been a very interesting hour or so, and I can't thank you enough for giving us time to talk about all these different aspects. And I know there's more to talk about, but the reality is that people who want to go from, we'll just use it metaphorically speaking, rags to riches, you are going to have those two words. You're going to have successes and failures. And as you have said, Karen, failures are probably the most important element that is going to help you to learn. And that's really what we're doing, is we're learning about how to do all this stuff and get the people around you. That's what I love is the people that I've had around me And again, yeah, I'm good at what I do, but I wouldn't be where I am today talking with you right now if it hadn't been for literally, I think, the thousands of people who have been a part of my life, and starting with my parents, of course. And I thank you for being added to that list as well, because I've learned a lot from this program. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, there's a little bit more because I have three more questions that I want to ask you that I ask all of my guests as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, and we're talking with Karen Pudetti. And those three questions that I'm going to ask you, I will ask you after I tell you. Thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And we are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m. And we're on 9 a.m. Wednesdays with our special edition of Tell Me Your Story. We stream live at those times at richarddugan.com. We podcast at SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and many other locations, too numerous to mention. We are also on YouTube, so you can even watch these interviews. I hope you'll select notification, if you will. So at least the next time I post another interview, boom, you're going to be notified. There's a new conversation. Let's see what Richard's talking about and who he's talking with today. And so I hope you'll do that. I hope also that you will help us out financially, support the work that we are doing to change the world. That's right. I said it, change the world. We're going to do it one interview at a time, putting all of these ideas on that giant smorgasbord table. We have a PayPal account. It's there for your security as well as ours. And when you go there, they're going to ask you for an email address to whom to send the support. It's Richard at richarddugan.com. That's Richard at richarddugan.com. And also spend time going within and listening to that still small voice and just sitting quietly and just taking it in. And like I said before, even if it's just for 60 seconds, because then that'll lead to maybe a minute and a half, then 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 8 minutes, and so forth, until the next thing you know, you're into a meditative practice every day that's going to help you to basically recenter yourself. And that's real important in these days, especially the way businesses go, as Karen has shared with us. Restaurants, number one, and beauty industry, number two, in terms of the number of establishments that are developed and then fail. So we certainly hope that you will avail yourselves of the information she has provided as well. With all of that being said, we now jump into our three final questions for our guest. The first of those is, who is Karen Pudetti?
First and foremost, I'm a mother. I'm married with two daughters. I own Luxe Salon and Spa and Laser Center. I wrote a book, Rags to Riches, How Beauty Icons Made It Big. And I made a course, and I hope to really change the beauty industry with everybody being able to be much more profitable and live the lives they want.
What is your life's purpose?
My life's purpose is probably to bring my knowledge to as many people as possible, to help as many people as possible in the beauty industry, for my daughters, for my next thing's podcast with ADHD. So those would be some of my things.
Finally, what was your best day?
I think my best day was when my oldest daughter was born, because I went through 5 years of infertility. I had one on bed rest at 13 weeks, went into labor at 22, stopped it, stayed in the hospital. And then on 36 weeks, a healthy baby was born. So that was years in the making and a lot of ups and downs. So I think that would be that day.
Once again, Karen Pudetti, I thank you again for joining us here on the program. Website again is Luxe Spa, LuxeSpa.com. Will be linked to your website. And again, we thank you so much for giving us all this time, an hour and 15 minutes.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. I appreciate it. I had a wonderful time.
I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I am listening. And Dad, be happy.